there are several things that they're making me very excited, and it concerns transportation. And now I have to decide which of the two I need to talk about. Obviously, the one that is in the limelight has to do with the rural school bus program. And can I tell you, as much as I want to talk about the Inter-Caribbean Ferry, that would be a service that would connect the Caribbean islands with each other, we have to talk about the bus. What was it? Admiral Bailey? Oh my gosh, I don't think it was Admiral Bailey. One of them was singing Inna the bus, people never kick up rump something like that. Yes, so anyways, it is getting very, very, very interesting. And I know you have seen the different stories all over the place. And I am just going to pick from one side and another side, and hopefully we can get it coming together. So when I heard about the American school buses that were going to be used in our rural school bus program, I was like, oh, okay. But the first thing that came to my mind is the fact that they drive on the right and we drive on the left. Now, having been in both the US and Canada and seeing the school buses, and one of the things that I saw that was really surprising was when the buses are letting off children, they literally have a stop sign that flicks off from the bus and extends out into the line of traffic. And by law, when that stop sign has been put out by the driver, you must stop. So what that means is if you violate that stop sign, you're in trouble. With that first imagery coming to me, I was like, okay, this is a good thing, because even though persons were saying that the buses drive on, or the driver is on the wrong side of the road, easy thing. Pull off the road, push out your sign, children get off the bus, and the school or the bus will have a warden, a crosser, somebody to get the children safely to and from the bus. So that was my only concern. Now, to be all the way over here in South America and to hear Mark Golding say, what did he say? You know, I'm trying to never misquote, but the bottom line is that is not going to work for Jamaica. And then he went further to speak about using taxis, and it just kind of started to snowball. I had to shake my head. And to be frank with you, coming from the place where I sit, I'm like, I could have never Professor John Golding's son, my highly esteemed orthopedic surgeon, who, if me did listen to him and go back for the surgery, him would have did broke me knee them and fix them good. I could have never seen him son out there talking this whole bag of rubbish. I tried to find a better word, but listen, I like to make things very personal, and I take some things very, very personally. Now, I do not remember those of you who would have been going to school in the 80s. There was a girl named Diane Smith, and she was abducted, and when they found her, she was no longer with life in her body. And there was a national outcry. This was 82, perhaps. I'm just using it based on when I was in primary school and getting ready for high school. It was a national outcry. If I'm not mistaken, That was the reason why we no longer change our clocks from Eastern Standard Time to whatever is the other one. I remember clearly, and I was still in primary school. And the reason that that was such a big thing was because children had to leave homes early before day in a dark night, 5 o'clock, to go get the bus to get to school on time. And I tell you, that rocked the nation. You so far I'm going back? This is to tell you this is a personal issue. Now, on top of that, when it was my time, having passed common entrance and going to high school in town from Portmore, that whole excitement kind of withered down, because now I had to also be getting up at 5 o'clock, leaving the house at 5:30. 6 o'clock catch me in the house, me late. Late. Can't almost nobody go to school. School started at 7. And I had to walk at least half a mile to a mile. Even though the bus terminus was 5 minutes walk from my house, I had to walk almost to Hart Academy from the terminus in Waterford to get the bus empty enough, not only to get a seat, but just to get onto the bus to get to school on time. Now, once you reach downtown, buses are there. You have the pick of the play. But to get from my house in Waterford to school, to downtown, I had to leave 5:30, 5:45. Me on the verge of being late. And then, to make it even more interesting, sometimes you would see the bus coming down, but it's already full because other people walk ahead of you and got up to wherever and started getting on the bus. Now, fortunately for a lot of us, the conductors and some of the drivers, I cannot forget Peter. I heard Peter passed away. Peter was an in-carver bus driver who looked out for me. He was one of those who would come out of the driver's seat, hoist me up, and have me step over to that little part between the engine body and the passenger seat to the far, that would have been what now, the far right, thus securing a spot for me to get on the bus to get to school. Now, in my day, you don't think about getting a seat. That's a luxury. You just need to be on the bus. And I wonder why the garbage truck have to come now that I'm doing this video. Anyway, I will never forget the days when, before having that driver, before having a conductor looking out for me, which would have been between maybe first to third form, I'd be happy to have a bus stop and I could just get on the steps. Because as the bus move and jerk and jostle and break up and drive again, it would have shift the bodies in, and I would be able to perhaps move up from the second level step to maybe the upper step and get a better grip on the railings. Now, to be honest with you, there were days when I am on the bottom level step, the door is open, and it is the conductor and maybe another man or two riding on the doorstep, using both arms to hold on to the window on the left and the window on the right, bracing us in the bus while we're going over the causeway. And I tell you, I had thoughts many times that me I go drop out of the bus and drop over causeway. And I don't know if that is one of the reasons why our faith was so strong, because man, we prayed. I prayed at least. And to make it through school, to finish high school, was one of my biggest desires. One of the things they would ask you was, when you grow up, what you want to be. And yes, I'd answer that question. But one of my most pressing need was to grow up so that I could get in the bus as an adult and not be backed away becoming a schoolers, as was my case then as a child. This is real. I mean, I am making this real so you can feel what I went through. So when so many years later, oh my God, if that happened in the 80s, I left high school 89. This is 2025. I don't even know how many years that is. That's like a whole lot of years. That's 30 enough. I left high school at 16. Oh my God. If I left high school at 16, that is like 39 years later. 39 years later, we're finally going to have a dedicated bus system for children. Now listen to me. I don't talk politics publicly because my position is my position and that's it. And I'm going to say something that I never thought I would have said ever. If it's a bus system that is not affecting me, I am not a mother or a grandmother, thank God. I have no children in school. I have no connection with any child who is in school, but I have a total commitment to the future of Jamaica. If it's this bus system alone, me will take my body and go back home in time for election. Enough said. So, moving forward with this conversation, I will say this. When the article came out in the Gleaner on Sunday, I saw it on X. Now remember, me there all the way in Antioquia, Colombia. And early morning, I see the headline from the Gleaner. And I did not know what to make of it, because the report was scaling and it spoke of an acquisition that was flawed. I'm sure you all would have read it, and I was also very happy, or maybe I saw it on Facebook because it was on X, that I saw the response from Minister Vaz as he sought to put context to this whole bus situation. And to be frank with you, I was very, very touched by what felt like the passion of his delivery in explaining the processes that went into acquiring these buses. And so, when I'm just here searching for the letter, the press release, because some things you need to quote as fact. It says that the Honorable Daryl Vaz is rejecting a suggestion by the Jamaica Gleaner newspaper in its publication of July 13th, and that's 2025, that a company called El Hydro was permitted to import 110 buses into Jamaica despite not being certified and or licensed to do so. The minister says the suggestion is reckless, false, and misleading. Minister Voss reiterated that the facts are as follows. And, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I had to read this because pen, paper, the written material, it stays forever. So we can judge by what has been written and make our decisions as time goes by, as the truth begins to unravel itself. The minister says, and he is the minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transportation. The minister says the ministry is the documented licensed importer of all buses brought into Jamaica under the government's Rural School Bus Initiative. Elijah acted as the supplier for the ministry, given that they are the sole approved agent in Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean for the dealer manufacturer of the make and model buses which were being imported. Elijah received permission from the trade board to facilitate the importation of the buses on behalf of the ministry. It goes on to say, for emphasis, the ministry is the documented licensed importer of the 110 buses. And I will take a pause just to say, in high school, when we were preparing for CXC exams in English, there was a very, very big push at being accurate. And the Gleaner at the time was the main newspaper. And that was where we were sent to see evidence of what accuracy and research-based journalism was all about. So it bothers me that the Jamaica Gleaner would not have found any proof or sought to find proof that the ministry is the documented licensed importer of these buses. Sad, this is not looking good for journalism, eh? The article goes on to say Elijah would not be required to be registered with the trade board as a used motor vehicle dealer, as school buses are specialized units which are not imported for resale, as would be the case for dealers who trade in the business of used vehicles. It further goes on to say, based on contractual arrangements, Elijah had responsibility for sourcing, shipping, and clearing the buses on arrival in Jamaica and handing over them to the ministry. The importation license obtained by the ministry was the precise, I want to make sure I read this because I have to be scrolling from side to side and make this document big because how the vision go. And the glasses new, we'll talk about the glasses another day. So back to the article. It says, Elijah had responsibility for sourcing, shipping, and clearing the buses on arrival in Jamaica and handing over to the ministry. The importation license obtained by the ministry was the premise upon which the vehicles were allowed into Jamaica. Elijah was granted a permit by the trade board to import only 3 buses under a private pilot initiative. This was issued in keeping with the motor vehicle importation policy. The article goes on to say, the Jamaica Gleaner article also perpetrates the false notion that the vehicles under the rural bus system may not have been certified despite the fact that rigorous certification procedures were observed. It should be noted, one, the 110 buses were certified in 2025 as required by the United States Department of Transportation stringent criteria. So we're getting into this now, Now, for those who want to go into the archives, these documents would be public knowledge and accessible. The buses were assessed by specialist bus inspection entities which operate in all 52 states in the USA and were approved by the Department of Transportation. 2. Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC's engineers visited the United States and conducted a rigorous inspection of the buses. Then 3. The Island Traffic Authority, which is the competent authority in Jamaica to conduct certification of vehicles, conducted rigorous certification processes and subsequently issued certification of fitness for the vehicles. Minister Vaz says, unsurprisingly, the headline in the Jamaica Gleaner of July 13, 2025, which states not certified, appeared to be deliberately and recklessly perpetrate false, disingenuous, and misleading narratives concerning a transformative policy which will positively impact rural Jamaica. This is where I need to catch my breath because, as a people, many things have been done wrong. But things have been done right. And Jamaica is still being held to the gold standard in the CARICOM, in the world community. We're leaders in so many things. And I've always said, to be Jamaican, you have to be twice as good to be considered half as valuable. So we strive hard. And I have a million and one other things to say. But I'll just close with this. Yesterday I was in the pool and I was speaking to a gentleman who had graciously lended me a hand to step in. And he said to me, "Your Spanish is so good. You're American, aren't you?" I said, "No, I'm Jamaican." He said, "Jamaican? Oh, but you live in America." I said, "No, I live in Jamaica." And he looked at me and he said, "But your Spanish is so good." I said, "Oh, yes. I studied in Spain and I've worked for years as a translator in Jamaica." And he looked at me again. And then he said, "But Jamaica is so far away." And I said, "Yes, but not too far. 2 planes and I'm here." And I had to put that in because being Jamaican, we have had to be perfectionists. And the opportunities that I got and the fact that I was able to remain safe throughout my formative years, the fact that I didn't fall off those bus steps to get to Camperdown High School was a sheer miracle. The fact that I'm still alive, well in my 50s, to share this tale is indicative of the fact that being Jamaican, I understand the assignment. And my only wish is that our Jamaicans, our young people coming through will get better opportunities, better chances. And contrary to what many might still believe, education is a way out of marginalization. Notice I did not say poverty, marginalization. So anything that would enable our children to thrive and to be the best they can, I'm all for it. Now, Mr. Mark Golding, I'm sure Professor John Golding would be rolling in his grave, because if nothing else, that man wanted the best for us. And if I live 1,000 years, I live with the regret of not obeying his instructions to come back and let him fix my knees. So I would say, Mark, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say nothing. Ciao for now.
Tired missing boss. Everyone say boss. Yo. Boss. Everyone tired missing boss. Everyone say boss. Yo. Boss. Boss.